10 Sports Central will be going over a college football game preview and prediction on a big matchup coming up in the Big 12 in Week 14. And this one's going to be between the Oklahoma Sooners and the Baylor Bears, two teams of which are coming off of wins, but Oklahoma is definitely one of the hottest teams in the nation right now, as they've got a 5-game winning streak currently going for them. They're 6-2, and they're definitely knocking on the door of the top 10 and possibly yet another Big 12 championship. Meanwhile, for Baylor, they're in 2-5 right now. They got a good win against Kansas State last week under their belt, and they're hoping to give Oklahoma a fight in this matchup. But in the end, we're going to be going over a full game preview and prediction on this one here today, starting out with your team trends. And of course, Oklahoma beat Oklahoma State back a couple of weeks ago, 41-13, and I'd probably say that's the signature win of the season so far for Oklahoma, which, I mean, Oklahoma State's a pretty good team, and considering Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are both rivals, that was a very good win for the Sooners. And I think, honestly, that game right there could lead them to a pretty good finish to this season because, I mean, wins like that against rival teams, that's going to really set off your momentum. So I think for Oklahoma right now, they're definitely looking like a really good team right now. I definitely think Oklahoma's got a good chance to give Iowa State a fight for the Big 12 championship. But meanwhile, for Baylor, they beat Kansas State 32-31. That one was a very close game, went back and forth pretty much for the majority of the game, but Baylor still got the win. It was a big win there for the Bears. But for the winning streaks, both these teams, Oklahoma's the 12th ranked team in the nation according to the AP poll. They're 6-2 with a 5-game winning streak. Meanwhile, for Baylor, they're 2-5 with a 1-game winning streak. So Baylor obviously has been quite a disappointment this season, considering how much talent that this team had coming into the season. I mean, if you think about it, Baylor, even though they had a couple of players have to leave, a couple of seniors were gone. I mean, they still got Charlie Brewer, who's a great quarterback. And I mean, this season he's put up over 1,600 yards. He's got a good touchdown interception ratio. So he's had a pretty good season for the Bears. It's just the talent around him has been a little bit sparse this season. But this game is going to be on Saturday, December 5th, 8 p.m. Eastern in Norman. So the Sooners will be your home team here. Spread currently says Oklahoma by 22. ESPN FPI's got Oklahoma 90%, and the Vegas prediction is also going with the Sooners here, 41-23 being the current projected final score. So all three of our sources are going with Oklahoma in this matchup. Not much of a surprise. Here's your stat comparison for this game. Oklahoma's got 31 points per game, 16 points allowed. They got 191 pass yards a game, 172 rush yards. And then for yards allowed, they got 213 on the passing side and then 109 rushing. As for Baylor, they got 27 points per game, 27 points allowed, so they match there. And then they got 232 pass yards a game, 102 rush yards. And then for yards allowed, they also have the same numbers there, 183 passing and 183 rushing. So Baylor, I mean, they've got their bright spots. Their passing game is pretty good. It at least has better numbers than Oklahoma does, but it's just the defensive side that hasn't been as good for Baylor this season, which, I mean, if you look at the teams that they played, I mean, they allowed 62, or they didn't, that wasn't them. I mean, they allowed 38 points to Iowa State. They allowed 33 to TCU. So all around, I mean, it hasn't been all that great of a season on defense for Baylor, but I mean, Oklahoma's kind of had the same problem too. I mean, they allowed 45 to Texas a few weeks back, so but Oklahoma still has got a much better average than Baylor does, as Oklahoma's only got an average of 16 points allowed per game, which is a pretty good stat there for Oklahoma. But in the end, here's some key points for this one. Oklahoma's definitely the hottest team in the nation right now. I mean, they've got a lot of talent on the Oklahoma side for sure. I mean, if you look at this team with Spencer Rattler, I mean, Spencer Rattler's really had a good second half of the season. I mean, if you look at him at the beginning of the season, he looks like a totally different player. Like at the beginning of the season, Spencer Rattler just had a rough start. I mean, he just did not have very good completion rate. He did not have very good yardage at all. But ever since they hit the halfway point after they beat Texas back on October 10th, this Oklahoma team has been on fire. I mean, Spencer Rattler on the season now is over 2,300 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So it's been a pretty good second half of the season for Spencer Rattler, that's for sure. But the thing is, for Baylor's, they've also got a good quarterback. Charlie Brewer is the starting quarterback for Baylor. However, this team is just too inconsistent. Like, I mean, we saw them last season with Charlie Brewer under center, and he had a great season for Baylor, but it's just been around him this season that's been so bad for this team. And, I mean, they're still a good team. There's no doubt there. I think Oklahoma could definitely have a tough game here, but, I mean, it's just the fact that this Baylor team is too inconsistent right now. Like, they lose to Texas Tech one week, they get blown out to TCU the other week, and it's just been, an inconsistent season for Baylor. But impacts of this game for both teams, I think the impacts are really high for Oklahoma here. Obviously for Baylor, I think the chances of making a bowl game this season are pretty low. But for Oklahoma, I mean, this is a team that's definitely in the pole position, and they control their own destiny to make it to the Big 12 championship. So, I mean, they do have the tiebreaker over Oklahoma State, so that's going to be huge for them moving forward. and it looks like they'll probably be facing Iowa State for a Big 12 championship, which obviously Iowa State's also a team that's got a lot of momentum right now, so that should make for a good matchup. But yeah, the odds of Oklahoma winning this game, I would say, are still pretty good, which Baylor obviously doesn't have as much to play for. I mean, Baylor still has got a big game here, which, I mean, this could definitely give them some good momentum heading into 2021. But in the end, Oklahoma's too good of a team. They're too strong of a team. They got too much momentum, and that's why I've got them winning this matchup. In the final, 48-21 is going to be the final score here. I think we see actually a pretty close game in the first half. I think Baylor hangs on there for at least the majority of the first half of this game, but in the end, Oklahoma's going to get the win by a decent margin, at least 3 touchdowns, I think. I mean, the Sooners are just too good of a team. Spencer Rattler is definitely becoming a much better quarterback by the game, and I think Oklahoma, I mean, 80% chance of them winning. I'm pretty confident that Oklahoma gets the win here. They're just a better team once again, better recruiting, better coach, all around. Oklahoma is just a better team. But let me know your thoughts and comments below on this one. Let me know your score predictions, all of that down below. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this game as well. But then again, thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed this preview, slap a like on it, subscribe as well, as it is always very appreciated. But as always, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you on the next one.